So this is our Progressive Era Museum. So the first artifact we have is a lynch, which were often used in Southern hangings. So after the Civil War, African Americans were greatly intimidated by white supremacists who often lynched African Americans who tried to vote in very racist Southern towns. And from 1882 to 1968, there were about 3,400 African Americans that were lynched, and that picture is sadly an example of that. So the next thing we have is a book called The Jungle, written by Upton Sinclair in 1906 as an attempt to enlighten the public of the horrible working conditions in meat factories. But Upton Sinclair said himself, instead of hitting the public's hearts, he hit their stomachs. And The Jungle describes the horrible food preparation practices of the meat factories, which led to the Pure Food and Drug Act, now today known as the FDA. And the picture on the left is a copy of The Jungle, and the man on the right is Upton Sinclair himself. The next thing we have is the textiles from the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, which was one of the biggest factory incidents in American history on March 5th, 1911. Uh, the 10th floor of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, uh, there was a fire that was started and it quickly spread through the floor with 140 women trapped inside, and many of them burned to death. Uh, Many of them jumped out of the windows because of the unbearable heat, and that is why today we have fire codes and regulations in schools and workplaces. And the picture on the left is the factory, unfortunately, after the fire. So the next thing is Carrie A. Nation's axe. So her axe was confiscated from her because she was part of a radical temperance movement to ban alcohol in America. And it was, police took it as evidence when they arrested her during one of her infamous bar busting raids, where she would carry her Bible and her axe and bust the bottles in local bars to stop people from drinking. And the picture on the top left is Carrie herself. The picture on the top right is her axe, and the bottom picture is a cartoon of one of her bar busting raids. You can see the man hiding behind the bar and her axe in her hand. The next thing was the literacy test. So after the 15th Amendment was passed, very racist Southern communities would require a literacy test for all African American voters. Since many of the African Americans couldn't read or write, they often failed these tests, and it was a way to legally prevent African Americans from voting to keep white supremacists in power. And here's an example of one of the questions. It says write, so WRITE, and then write, WRIGHT, from the left to the right as you see it spelled here. So obviously these questions were very difficult, and like I said before, the African Americans often failed these tests because the questions almost went in circles and they didn't make any sense. So the next thing is the original 1940 Ford car that was used in NASCAR. So NASCAR came about at the end of the Prohibition as moonshine runners had no place to run from anymore, but they wanted to race and they wanted to see who had the fastest car. And over time, the cars got faster and faster, and they wanted to race each other. And it's crazy to see that a simple band of moonshine runners developed into the world's largest spectator sport, obviously NASCAR. So the Sears mail order catalog, and so the mail order catalog started as a way for businesses to grow on a national scale. The roadways went just about anywhere in the country, and where something could be shipped, something could be delivered. So people were even able to buy entire pre-cut houses and have them delivered, and this opened a whole new window that America had never seen before. And the picture on the left is an example of one of the catalogs. So next is the Ford Model T. So the Model T truly reinvented the car industry. It was an affordable car that most working Americans could afford. The car was made on first large-scale production lines ever, the assembly lines, and it gave more people jobs and eventually gave them $5 a day, which was practically unheard of in the working class. The top picture is a Model T, and the bottom picture is the assembly line, and the picture on the left is obviously a $5 bill since that is what they were getting paid. So next is Coca-Cola. So Coke was launched in 1886 as an alcoholic beverage, surprisingly, marketed to cure ailments such as low sexual libido. During the Prohibition, the alcohol had to be taken out of the drink, and it was marked as a temperance or anti-alcoholic drink. So lastly is the Kodak camera. So Kodak was one of the first to take photographs using dry technology. Wet technology that many were using didn't work very well at the time, and it had to be developed before it could be dry or the picture would be ruined. So that is all the artifacts that we have. Thank you very much for watching.